4 years ago, a small herd returned to UK soil after a 6,000-year absence. And that's following an incredible breeding programme over the past century which quite literally saved this species from the brink of extinction. And their impact here has already been immense for nature within this forest, but also for people too. Because you see, the bison are in a forest directly next to the Wildwood Trust, a charity which is dedicated to restoring Britain's native wildlife. They breed, release and care for animals all within a wildwood setting, and everyone's welcome to come and visit. I got a tour from the Trust's director, Paul. Upon my arrival, Paul checked the GPS and we could see that the herd was close, so we headed in to the edge of the enclosure to see if we could catch a glimpse.
They're there. They are literally in a clearing on the other side of these beech trees. I can see an ear twitching.
Oh, you've got good eyes. You've got. Oh, hold on. Oh, so literally
through there, chewing. It's lying down and chewing.
Yeah.
The cud.
Okay, so it's not far at all, is it?
No.
So European bison, they are a forest species, right? They are. Well, I mean, I guess they engineer these landscapes which are a bit more diverse than just your.
Well, I think that's really the key thing. There's a myth that European bison live in the woods, and American bison live on the prairies, and actually, neither of those is completely true. The European bison. His ideal habitat is a mosaic of open space, a mosaic of woodland. I say that's what they prefer, that's what they create. That's exactly the complex mosaic habitat of sort of almost woodland pasture that large herbivores like bison will create, and that's where they thrive. And likewise the American bison, if they have naturalistic herds and the opportunity, they will also browse an awful lot and spend a lot of time in the woods.
Don't you want to get some beavers and some elk in there as well?
I would love to have beavers in here, but there's no streams or rivers at all.
No, they need, yeah.
And the elk would need a bigger fence than the electric one to keep them in.
Yes.
And to that, literally, we've got our elk on the other side of that fence.
Yeah, blimey. Yeah, I think I can see it. I mean, they're taller than the bison,
oh,
aren't they?
Yeah, much taller.
Yeah.
So this is Jürgen. He came from Lithuania.
Okay.
And we brought him in about 2 or 3 years ago. And he is one of 2 male elks in the entire of the UK. The other one's up in Scotland. So we're actually looking to bring him a girlfriend in fairly soon. And the idea that elk that breed here would be heading off to future rewilding projects. This time of year, it's calm, peaceful, wonderful animal. When his antlers are full and he's in the rut and he's dripping with testosterone and he's got a girlfriend, don't want to go anywhere near him.
No. So are there any other animals in with them?
No, the bison are just on their own.
Yep.
And the plan, and it's again, in terms of linking up the bits of the area, the long-term plan is that we'll have bison on that side of the fence and horses and cattle on this side.
Yeah.
There's just horses at the minute. There were cattle before, but it's moving around. And so we can look at what impact bison have that cattle don't.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have said, why bother with bison? It's complicated, it's expensive. You should just use a rare breed British cattle species. And actually what we can see here is the bison have a huge impact on the woods that the cattle don't. I mean, cattle have their place and they do a fantastic job, but they will not smash through this thick regrowth in the same way that the bison do. They'll nibble around the edges. If there's a path, they'll use the path and widen it out, but the bison will literally just smash through it. There's various willow species in here. Goat willow is one of their favourites. They will find it in the middle of the woods, strip all the bark off it, and sort of smash a path to it, eat it, and then break their way out again. And again, cattle just wouldn't do that.
Obviously we hope that in the coming decades this is a species which can move off out into other parts of the UK and hopefully be wild, semi-wild.
Absolutely.
So we already share the landscape with, you know, think of the New Forest where you've got ponies and cattle. How different is a European bison to those creatures?
I mean, it's not. It's like a very large cow. Yeah. They're not an aggressive species. If you get between a mum and its calf, you're in trouble, but exactly the same as a cow. If there's a bull and you go up to it and annoy it and try and take a selfie with it, you are in trouble, but exactly the same as a bull. They're no more dangerous than a cow. It's just legally they're defined as a dangerous wild animal, and therefore you need a specific license to hold them. But you know, we're looking at potential projects in the future where there'd be public footpaths through where the bison would be, and we need to try and get the government and councils who create those licenses to accept what they're really like.
I think beavers will always sit at the apex, right, of engineering.
Yeah, I mean they physically engineer the landscape.
Yeah.
They change. They'll change a ditch into a really beautiful, complex wetland. I don't think anything does it like a beaver. But in terms of sort of woodland and mosaic habitat creation, I don't think anything does it like a bison. I've said to people that bison are not the solution to the biodiversity crisis, but I don't think we can solve it without them. I'm a huge advocate for predator reintroductions, I really am, but I think large herbivore reintroductions are more important, particularly now.
What I want to know is why aren't we seeing more bison in more places around the UK?
Because it's expensive and complicated legally with the licensing. It's really complex. It's not just a Dangerous Wild Animals Act license you need, because they are effectively dangerous animals legally that have been kept and looked after. You also need a reintroduction into the wild license from Natural England, and then they need to deal with APHA and the cattle movement guys, because they are effectively recognised as cattle, and so they have to be TB checked and ear tagged and all that sort of stuff. And so you have layers of overlapping legislation with different agencies who don't talk to each other, and so it just makes it really difficult, really complicated and expensive to do.
Sounds like a common story for any large animal coming back. Are farmers interested in having these creatures, like conservation?
They are.
They
are. So the second project in Cumbria, its official launch is on the 4th of June.
Yes.
And they're a farm. They're an estate up in Cumbria, and they want to talk about bison as being part of regenerative farming. They've also got beavers, they've got wetlands. It's a fascinating site, but they will still be farming. And they want to have that conversation with other farmers as to how you can have areas of your land that are rewilded, that have these large herbivores back, but you're still operating a farm.
Absolutely, that's what we need, isn't it? You can't have one without the other. It's never a debate in my mind, you know?
It's not. In the media, there's a huge public argument between farmers and nature and farmers and rewilding, and actually it's a real distortion of the fact. There are a few rewilders who don't like farmers. There are a few farmers that really hate rewilders. The vast majority of people want to work together, and the vast majority of these projects work because people do work together.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a hugely positive story. It's got a huge amount of media attention. Every time we do anything around the bison, it gets a lot of press, which is fantastic. And I think it does because it's a really good news story. It's a story of hope. Here are these handsome, beautiful creatures making the world a better place.
Here at Leave Curious, I'm trying to share more hopeful stories about the recovery of nature. Across the world, there are incredible people restoring landscapes, bringing species back, and repairing damaged ecosystems, but most of these stories barely get seen. So, the aim of this channel is pretty simple: to visit as many of these places as possible and document what's happening. And the people who make that possible are the members. By joining, you're not only helping support the channel, you'll also get exclusive updates from restoration projects and wild places around the world. Right now, Leave Curious is growing quickly, and I'm working on building something that can shine a bigger spotlight on projects like this one here at Wildwood Blean. The more support the channel gets, the more stories that we can tell. So if you'd like to be part of that, I'd love to see you over there. So just heading into do you call it a zoo? What do you call this bit?
We don't use the word zoo.
No, I wouldn't.
It's our animal park.
Animal park, I like that.
This is our sort of, this is where we tell the story of British wildlife, really.
So
European otter enclosure.
Okay.
When he's out, he's amazing. He's a real ambassador for the otters, but because he's an otter, most of the time he's asleep.
Fair enough. I would be if I could be.
And all the animals here have got enough space to be able to disappear off public show if they want to.
Yeah, that's important.
Most of our members really understand that and appreciate it, the fact that the animals have all got their own space. Yeah,
I mean, it's nice that this doesn't feel like a zoo. Like you say, it is an animal park of British animals gone and coming back, and
absolutely,
ones which we still have.
We've got a pair of black storks. There you go, making his nest at the minute. Literally on top of this shed here.
Oh yeah?
Black stork is just building a nest. They've bred the past 2 years. Linked by the tunnels of love. So they can bond and be in each other's territory without being able to fight. And then when it's the breeding season, you open up the slides and let them breed.
See, the tunnels of love. Up here there are tunnels to allow the pine martens to pass through when they are in the mood.
So this is Haze and Fury. never let animal keepers name the animals. And there he is, munching away on a bit of browse. And you could see that really thick winter coat just starting
to molt
off. And to get that off is when they really rub against trees.
In terms of the recovery of bison from Europe, how close were we to losing the species?
We came literally that close to losing them completely extinct as a species. We came down to them being extinct in the wild. I think it was 56 in captivity at the end. And then through captive breeding, 12 of those animals have produced the entire world population of European bison now, and we're at over 6,000 of them. Bocky, our young bear, climbs trees, and so that one's a bit close to the perimeter, so
yeah, I can see that.
Climbs that one a lot.
Yeah, so they put some aluminium tin.
So it's just tin to stop the bears climbing.
Yeah, quite hard to grip on that, I can imagine.
Yeah, so we've got 3 bears in here. So Fluff and Scruff, who've been here 10 years, came from a Bulgarian canned hunting centre.
Okay.
It was horrible. They had 10 years of living in solitary confinement in concrete pits.
Jesus. Sorry, why were they in there? What's the purpose of that?
It was basically a paid-for hunting centre where people would turn up to hunt a bear. They bred bears in this facility would chuck a bear out in the woods and you go and shoot it. It was awful. I mean, there's some pictures of where they were, but it was dreadful.
Yeah.
But they came in really traumatized, stressed bears.
Yeah.
They had like sores on their paws from just rubbing on concrete. They just paced the size of their concrete enclosures. I mean, you can still see cut into the ground in there. They've got an acre and a half here. The size of their old enclosure, because when we first put them in, that's all they did was still paste the size of it. But we've worked with them now for 10 years, totally transformed them. They are fat, happy, healthy bears that just spend their life doing bear stuff in this woodland we created.
So a species which we've covered a lot on the channel recently is the Eurasian lynx. And you have, how many do you have here? Just one?
No, 2. We've got a male and a female. These are brother and sister, but she's on a contraceptive implant, so they don't breed.
Right.
But we've just designed this, it's literally just been finished, talking to the Missing Lynx project and guys in Europe. So this is designed that if we ever do a reintroduction in the UK, we can breed lynx here for it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. You've got such a hustle and bustle here I mean, that's a school coming in. You said 12,000?
12,000 school kids through here last year, which was amazing. It's our best year so far.
Yeah.
But no, we'll regularly have over 10,000 school kids.
Awesome.
This is one of our red squirrel breeding enclosures.
Oh yeah?
We've got 3 babies in here at the minute.
How do they breed? Are they quite easy to breed, or?
No. Oh, actually, there you go. They're up at the top.
Oh, yeah.
So 3 baby squirrels. They'll be heading off for release in Wales. So I don't know how many we've bred. We've been breeding red squirrels now for over 20 years here. Must have bred a couple of hundred of them for release into the wild.
Wonder why they have the ear tufts. I mean, I often wonder that with the lynx as well.
I've no idea. Whole suite of invertebrate projects we're going to be launching if we can get the funds.
Yeah.
So mole crickets.
Oh yeah. Glowworms.
Glowworms. My brain's gone blank. Tadpole shrimp. We're looking at some pot beetles. Some really cool little tiny things.
Yeah.
And swallowtails is also one of those. So to actually do a proper reintroduction project of swallowtails, polytunnels full of swallowtails, releasing thousands of caterpillars out into the landscape. I mean, it would be transformational. Very exciting.
Very cool.
Absolutely need the funds to make it happen.
Yes, yeah. Well, if people want to support you, you've got your membership here. You take donations.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you're a member of Wildwood, it's not even very expensive for an individual. It's £4 or £5 a month. Yeah. And it supports everything we do. Yeah. 80% of our income comes from our visitors and our members.
Yes.
That funds most of our conservation work. We do get some grants, which is amazing. Yeah. But we're fundamentally a sort of grassroots, self-funding organisation.
That's brilliant.
But again, this is a rescue rehabilitation facility for beavers. The last pair we had were orphans from Scotland. Their parents had been shot. And so they came here when they were little. We bred sort of looked after them till they were fully grown and strong and healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
And they've both gone off for reintroduction.
Amazing. Most of them come from Scotland, would you say, or maybe other places?
We've got a wild population of beavers in Kent.
Oh, really?
On the Stour, so it's probably the...
Someone said to me, when are you going to go and see the first true wild beavers?
Yeah, Kent.
Kent.
There's been beavers in Kent for 25 years.
So why am I under the impression it was always in Devon and Scotland?
Because the Kent beavers were always not talked about.
Well, we're going to have to change that. We're going to have to change that.
I mean, they are now. I mean, people do talk about the Kent beavers, and yeah, there are. There's a. Oh wow, this is nice. This is all new. So generally, we'll have like little nest boxes in there. The beavers quite often be snoozing in there, and people can see them. This is a dormouse bridge, by the way.
Nice. Does it get used?
Yeah, we've got wild dormice in the park. We've got all our dormice breeding facilities over in the trees as well. So we've got 37 dormouse bred here, heading off for release in June as well.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
So the Wildwood Trust and the Wildwood Blean project has, you know, really reminded me again that, you know, nature is coming back here in Britain. And I know it can sometimes feel like things are moving slowly and it's doom and gloom, but, you know, things are moving in the right direction. And here you've got an incredible creature, which is the bison, which is, you know, moving through a British woodland once again. Yes, there's an enclosure, but, you know, these are the first steps to having like properly wild animals back in this country. I think we can do it. If you've got this far in the video and you haven't yet subscribed to Leave Curious, then please do. In the description of this video will be links to everything which they're doing here. On the screen here is the Leave Curious membership. Do go and check that out. And here's a video for you to keep watching. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Leave Curious.